Good morning, boys and girls. Today is Tuesday, May the 19th, and we're going to be working on page 279 and 280. The title of this lesson is Sentences, Compound and Complex. So most of you did a fantastic job on the lesson yesterday, so kudos to you. But today we're going to be working on sentences again. And let's begin at the top of our page. It says a clause is a group of words that has a subject and a verb. We talked about that the other day. An independent clause is a complete thought, so it can stand alone as a sentence. So it's independent. It doesn't need anything else. It can stand just by itself. And a compound sentence contains two or more independent clauses, joined by a comma and a coordinating conjunction and, but, or. Okay, so let's look at this sentence right here. Here's a great example. You can ride the elevator. You can climb the stairs. Those are both independent clauses, but we could squeeze them together with this conjunction little word right here, or. So let's look at it again. You can ride the elevator, comma, or you can climb the stairs. So that is a compound sentence. It's two independent clauses that have been squished together with this conjunction, or. So now let's look at the next section right here. It says a dependent clause is not a complete thought, so it cannot stand alone as a sentence. It's not a complete thought. Remember that. A dependent clause begins with a subordinating conjunction such as after, although, because, since, until, when, and while. So, for example, let's look at this right here. Unless you go with me. That's a great example of a dependent clause. It begins with unless. Unless you begin with me. Unless you go with me. Here's another one. Unless you go with it. Well, actually, it's the same one. But anyway, a complex sentence contains an independent clause and one or more dependent clauses. A comma follows a dependent clause at the beginning of a complex sentence. So I'm going to repeat this real quick. It says a complex sentence contains an independent clause. So it has to have an independent clause in there, or something that's a complete thought, and one or more dependent clauses. A comma follows the dependent clause at the beginning of a complex sentence. And this is a great example of that. Unless you go with me, comma, because this is a dependent clause, and what follows it? A comma. Unless you go with me, comma, I won't go on the ride. I won't go on the ride is a independent clause. It can stand alone. So this is a great example of a complex sentence. Now, we're going to go to the guided practice section just below this box, and it says, underline the independent clause or clauses and circle the conjunction in each sentence. Fill in the circle to answer whether each sentence is compound or complex. So there's one thing I need to talk to you about. You can have conjunctions like coordinating conjunctions such as and, but, or you could have subordinating conjunctions such as after, although, because, since, until, when, and while. So let's just keep that in mind. So let's begin. Gustave Eiffel studied the science of metals while he was in school. Okay, so they want us to underline the independent clause, the sentence, the clause that can stand alone, is a complete thought. And that would be Gustave Eiffel studied the science of metals. That is a complete thought right there. So Gustave Eiffel studied the science of metals. What do you think is, now let's look at the next one. It says while he was in school. While he was in school is not a independent clause. In fact, that's the complete opposite. It's a dependent clause. So can you find the conjunction in there? While. Okay, so let's circle while. And if you look up here at this section right here, it's the subordinating conjunction. So, do you think that with this independent clause and with the subordinating conjunction, while, do you think this is a compound sentence or a complex sentence? Well, it's a complex sentence. And the reason why is because it has a subordinating conjunction. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied in here. It would be a compound if we had the coordinating conjunctions and, but, or, but it doesn't. It has this subordinating conjunction, while. So it's going to be a complex sentence. Okay, so let's go to number 2. It says, when Eiffel finished school, his first job was designing a metal bridge. So which one of those parts of that sentence do you think is independent? It could stand alone. It's a complete thought all by itself. Do you think it's when Eiffel finished school? No, that would leave you thinking when Eiffel finished school what? So that's not a complete thought. So then this part right here, the second part, is the independent clause right here. His first job was designing a metal bridge. So let's underline that because that's what we're supposed to do. And then we need to find the conjunction in the sentence. When Eiffel finished school, which one of those words do you think is the conjunction? It's when. So we're going to circle when. And is when one of these subordinating conjunctions? Do you see that up there? Yes, we do. So since we do, this is going to be a what? A complex sentence. Okay, remember, it's pretty simple. It's a compound sentence if it's joined together with and, or but. That's compound sentences have these conjunctions right here, and, or but. Okay, so this is going to be a complex. Okay, so let's go to the next one. Eiffel was successful, comma, and he became known as Europe's master metal builder. All right, so which one of these clauses is independent because it says underline the independent clause? Eiffel was successful, or and he became known as Europe's master metal builder. Okay, some of y'all are going to jump to conclusion if you don't just think about this for a second. Just because this clause right here is short does not mean that it's not independent. Eiffel was successful. This right here is the independent clause. It is a complete thought. Okay, so we're going to underline Eiffel was successful. Okay, now do you see a conjunction? This is one of the easy conjunctions. We've been talking about these conjunctions all year long, and the word is and. Okay, so we're going to circle and. And because this word is and, what kind of sentence do you think this is? Do you think it's a compound or a complex? It's a compound. So, great job. All right, so let's move on down to the bottom. It says combine the sentences using the conjunction in parentheses. So you have to use this conjunction in this sentence and this one and this one. Okay, so and this one, what kind is this going to be? This is going to be a coordinating conjunction. This is going to be like in a compound sentence. And this right here, until, is going to be a subordinating conjunction. So this is going to be a complex sentence right here. So I've kind of given you a hint right here. So let's just go ahead and write, this is a compound sentence, and this is a complex sentence. Okay, so I've helped you along with that already, and that's based on the conjunction right here. Okay, so let's read the sentence. It says, such a tall building of wood would collapse. It would break in the wind. Okay, so we're gonna take, these are both independent sentences. These are both independent clauses that we can put together and squish it together and make it a compound sentence. Okay, so we could say, such a tall building of wood would collapse, comma, or it would break in the wind. Okay, so let's write that real quick. Such a tall building of wood would collapse, comma, or it would break in the wind. Now, on these sentences, I want you to go ahead and write them all out instead of just squeezing something where you think it should be. I want you to actually write the sentence out. Okay, so the next one is until. So this is a subordinating conjunction. So what do you think we could say? We could put it at the beginning. We could say until they got better pay, comma, men would not work on such a tall building, period. Or we could say men would not work on such a tall building until they got better pay. Personally, I like the second one. Okay, so let's go here. Men would not work on such a tall building until they got better pay. Okay, so in that sentence, you do not need a comma. You do not need a comma. You only need a comma if you begin it with the subordinating, or excuse me, the dependent clause. So, for example, if we started it and said, until they got better pay, comma, men would not work on such a tall building. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to flip this over, and you're going to do the top section just like we did our section on page 279. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and do this one with you. Okay, so combine the sentences using the conjunction in parentheses, but. So because this is, remember, and, or but, what kind of sentence is this going to be? It's going to be a compound sentence. Compound. Okay, so the Eiffel Tower was the tallest building in the world for 30 years. That's an independent clause. Now many buildings are taller. That's an independent clause. Okay, so we're going to squeeze those together, is like I like to refer, okay, to that. So it says the Eiffel Tower. Make sure you capitalize Eiffel Tower. It's a proper noun. Was the tallest building in the world for 30 years. Comma, but now many buildings are taller. Okay, period. Okay, so we finished that one. Remember, I want you to write that sentence out. It's practice writing it out. We're not just going to take the shortcut and squeeze it in there. Okay, so you do not have to do the apply and write, but you have to complete sections, numbers 1 through 7 up above. I hope this helps. If you have any questions, just send me a message and let me know what you're having a problem with. I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.